today I figured we'd talk about a survival story. And when I read this survival story, I thought it was insane. I thought this girl went through like the worst thing possible, and she found the strength and the resilience to just kind of push it forward and survive. So the case is Mary Vincent. When Mary Vincent was 15 years old, people described her as like rebellious. She would skip class, she would go hang out with her friends and like drink, which wasn't a big deal, but this was like the late 70s, so people were like, oh my god, you know, she's going down a dark path and whatnot. And so at the time, I mean, she was 15 years old, but she was living with her boyfriend in Las Vegas, but he ended up getting arrested for the rape of a high school student. He got arrested and she decided to go to Corona, California, which is where her grandparents were, and she decided to hitchhike, which, I mean, guys, never hitchhike. On September 29th, 1978, she starts hitchhiking to California, and a man in a van pulled up. She, in her like recount, I think, I had read the story online, but she was featured in an episode of I Survived. In the episode, she said that a man in a van had pulled up, and he kind of reminded her like of a grandpa type. He was older, like in his 50s, and he just kept telling her how he had a daughter her age, and it kind of made her feel more comfortable. And so she decided to get in the car and go with him. And he's like, you know, I'm kind of going that way. I can give you a ride to as close to Corona, California as I can, and then like, you know, you can figure it out from there. And she's like, great. So the man was 50-year-old Lawrence Singleton. So everything is great. They start driving, and then Mary said that she had sneezed, and he kind of like put his like hand like behind her neck, and she was kind of like, what are you doing? Like, don't touch me, like what's going on? And he was just like, oh, you know, I was just checking to see if you were sick or whatever, which is, it's really weird. Like, why would you touch like the back of somebody's neck to see if they're sick? I mean, I know like the on the forehead thing, but especially somebody you don't know, like it's just really weird to just kind of be touching that person. She was like, oh, like that's kind of weird, and she was a little bit uncomfortable, but he kind of just played it off, and she, you know, was kind of like inching away from him. And then she said nothing else happened, so she had been so tired from walking, and so she decided to like take a nap, and she was like, I'm just gonna go to sleep and like kind of rest my eyes for a little bit. And she said when she woke up, they were kind of going the opposite way, like the wrong way, and she was like, that's when she started kind of getting worried and being like, what's going on, like where are we going? And he just told her, you know, it was an honest mistake, I'm an honest guy, like it just happened. And he turned around and started going back the other way and just kind of played it off as like, you know, I must have taken the wrong turn, I'm sorry, like it could happen to anybody kind of thing. And then started going the right way. So she started, I mean, feeling uneasy, but, you know, felt a little bit better that he did kind of start going back the correct way. So she was kind of afraid. So she had found like a stick, like a surveyor stick, and she was like pointing it at him, and he was just like, it's just like an honest mistake, honestly, like I'm sorry. I didn't do this on purpose. She believed him. And then they kept driving for a little bit, and then he told her he had to use the restroom, and instead of waiting to get to like a rest stop or a gas station for a bathroom, he was like, oh, I can't wait, like I need to use the restroom like now. So he pulled over and he got up to like relieve himself, and so she's like, this is the perfect time for me to get out, kind of stretch my legs and kind of just move a little bit. And so she got out of the car and she realized that her shoe was untied. So she bent over to start tying her shoe. And then she said she felt like she had a headache. So he had ended up hitting her over the head with a sledgehammer. And then this is where it gets pretty graphic. So he hits her over the head, he takes her into the back of the van, and he proceeds to tie her up and rape her all night. When she kind of comes to, she's naked, she's tied up, and she's just like, please let me go, just let me go, just set me free. And he was like, oh, I'll set you free. So he ends up like taking a hatchet and cutting her like arm off from like the elbow down, and then he ends up doing the same to the other arm. So he ends up, you know, cutting her on both arms. He's like near like a culvert, like a little cliff. She's raped, beaten up, like mutilated, and he just throws her off like this 30-foot culvert near Del Puerto Canyon in California. That was like the area they were in. So he just threw her off this like 30-foot thing and was like, you know what, she's gonna bleed out, she's probably gonna die from the fall, and if she doesn't die from the fall, like I said, she'll just bleed out. So he just kind of like left her there and was like, you know, who's gonna find this girl? Mary ends up waking up, and she wakes up, and this poor girl, like, she's been raped, she's terrified. I mean, probably at this point just like so in shock and so traumatized that she's like not even processing exactly what's happening. She realizes, I need to get out of here, like no one's gonna find me in this like 30-foot drop. I need to get back up and get onto the highway and then like flag somebody down for help. Mary realizes that she's bleeding, and she kind of has to cauterize the wound to like somehow or stop the bleeding, and she's naked, so it's not like she could take part of her clothes and like kind of wrap it around. So in like the dirt and gravel, she decides to like just like rub her like rest of her arm into like the mud and gravel to just kind of like stop it from bleeding out, which like the things that people do to survive is amazing. It's truly amazing that this girl has just gone through this horrible ordeal, and her first thought is forget the pain, like I need to survive, I need to live. So she does that, and somehow she like climbs her way back up to the top and gets to the highway. A couple cars had passed her by and didn't like stop her to help her or anything, which I mean, I would have stopped, but I feel like, imagine seeing just like you're driving and then you see like a naked person with like no arms and you're just like, what is going on? You know, it's really scary. But I mean, I can't judge anybody, but I would have stopped. I would have immediately stopped and been like, how can I help you? Like, let me take you to a hospital. That's just my first reaction. But even if you didn't stop, like, why wouldn't you call the police and be like, I'm not stopping because I'm scared or I don't know what to do, but let me call the cops and say there's some girl in the highway and she's naked and she looks like she's been injured. Like, this is the highway I'm on. And just like call the police. I don't understand why that wouldn't be an option. So this couple who was actually honeymooning had seen her, and they stopped and they got her in the car and they like wrapped her up, gave her some towels, and took her to the hospital. So once Mary was in the hospital, she ends up giving like a sketch description of Larry Singleton, and the sketch artist did such a good job at the sketch that when they published it, one of Larry's neighbors called in and was like, that is my neighbor. Like, the person in that sketch is my neighbor. His name is Lawrence Singleton. He lives here. The police go and they arrest him. So at his trial, Mary actually goes, and at this time, like, this girl is the bravest person ever. You know, she goes through all of this and still goes to court and sits in front of her attacker and says, you did this to me. And her testimony is very powerful because they see her and she's just saying, he did this and this to me. And And so they ended up convicting him due to Mary's testimony against him. Due to the laws at the time and of the state, Lauren Singleton only got 14 years in prison. 14, 1/4. He got less of a prison sentence than like she had been alive for. She was 15 when this happened. And here's the thing, when are we as like people, as a community, like, because she didn't die, he couldn't get more of a sentence? But when are we gonna accept that he, like, his intention was 100% to kill her? He threw her and he left her for dead. His plan was to kill her. He knew she was either gonna like succumb to the elements or bleed out, and that was his intent. So, but I mean, I could go on about unjust sentences for these people. He gets sentenced to 14 years, which of the 14 years, he only ends up serving 8 years due to good behavior, which, how do you, like, why does this man get to rape, abuse, mutilate, and leave for dead a 15-year-old girl and gets out in 8 years for good behavior? Clearly, I mean, this man's a psychopath probably, and, you know, learned how to behave really well and learned how to appear that he was a good prisoner and to get out early, which is just sick. Understandably so, when he got out, there was a lot of public outcry. People did not want him there. They were like, get this man out. Like, if he's in our neighborhood, like, we're gonna kill him. Which I wouldn't want somebody like that living in my neighborhood. No. And he ends up going to Tampa, Florida, my hometown. He ends up going to jail for like petty theft and like smaller crimes. So he's like, you know, still getting into trouble. And then in 1997, a neighbor of his ends up calling the police because she said, I think like something is happening next door. Like, I hear a woman screaming. I don't know if, like, you know, it's domestic abuse or something is happening next door. You need to come. And so when the police get there, and they go to the house that Lauren Singleton was now living at, they walk in and they find the body of Roxanne Hayes. And Roxanne Hayes was a prostitute, but more importantly, she was a mother of 4. They had found her stabbed to death. They take Larry and they take him back to trial, this is why we don't let like people like him out of jail the first time. If he would have, you know, gotten a longer prison sentence for doing what he did to Mary Vincent, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Maybe if he would have like lived out the 14-year sentence that he was given instead of the 8 years that he got, this could have been prevented. I don't know. So many things could have happened. Mary Vincent ends up flying from California to Florida to testify against Larry Singleton, and at this time she has her prosthetics, and she gives a very powerful witness statement and saying like, this is what he did to me, and he got out and now he's killed somebody else. Thanks to her testimony and because he is in the state of Florida, Lauren Singleton gets the death penalty. He never ends up getting executed by the state of Florida because in 2001, Lauren Singleton ended up dying in prison due to cancer, which I'm sorry to say, actually I'm not sorry to say, I don't care. Okay, I hope he had a very, very painful death and like way out. So I hope that, you know, he suffered the rest of his days in prison with the cancer he had. Like, good riddance, bye. Mary, on the other hand, she stated that, you know, of course, after the incident, she had a lot of trauma, a lot of, you know, issues to have to deal with. I mean, who wouldn't? I can't even imagine, most of us can't even imagine going through something like Mary Vincent did and then having to testify against this person 2 times. Mary ends up getting into art and she becomes like a talented painter. If you see some of her paintings, they're amazing. And she ends up getting married. And now she has 2 sons. Just a beautiful thing to see that she, you know, is now living a normal life. She's married, she has children. She's doing something she loves, which she didn't ever think she would be, like an artist, you know, a painter, and you know, her life experiences kind of took her to that point. Guys, that is the survival story of Mary Vincent. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. If you have any video suggestions or cases that you want me to do next, just leave a comment down, give a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.